Some people bet their money, others risk their dignity, but one person bet everything, including their common sense. In the annals of sports betting, there have been many infamous wagers. From absurd prop bets to reckless decisions that upend lives, the line between boldness and folly often blurs. But among these tales, one bet stands out as not only dumb, but almost comically tragic. A British man who wagered his life savings of $35,000 on a WWE wrestling match. At first glance, this might seem like just another bad bet, but the deeper you dig, the more baffling and instructive this story becomes. The event in question was a match between Brock Lesnar and The Undertaker, two titans in the world of professional wrestling. For years, The Undertaker was known for his iconic WrestleMania streak, an undefeated run spanning over 2 decades. To fans and bookmakers alike, The Undertaker was untouchable at WrestleMania, a symbol of invincibility. Brock Lesnar, his challenger in 2014, was undoubtedly a force to be reckoned with, but few believed he could break the streak. Bookmakers, playing along with the scripted drama of WWE, offered odds of 66-1 against Brock Lesnar. The odds reflected not so much the real difficulty of Lesnar winning — after all, WWE outcomes are pre-decided — but rather the overwhelming assumption that The Undertaker's streak was a cornerstone of WWE lore, too sacred to be broken. For one British man, however, these odds were enough to convince him to place a jaw-dropping bet. At 66-1, he stood to win $500 by betting his entire life savings of $35,000. To understand just how ill-advised this bet was, it's crucial to grasp the nature of WWE. Unlike traditional sports, professional wrestling is not a competition where skill, strategy, or even luck dictate outcomes. It's entertainment, a theatrical performance with choreographed moves, scripted outcomes, and dramatic storylines. Wins and losses are determined by writers in advance, not by the athletes themselves. WrestleMania 30 in 2014 will forever be remembered for one of the most shocking moments in WWE history. As the match unfolded, Brock Lesnar unleashed his signature move, the F5, and pinned The Undertaker. The referee counted to 3, and the unthinkable happened. The streak was over. The crowd fell into stunned silence. Faces in the audience reflected disbelief, anger, and grief. For wrestling fans, it was as if a cornerstone of their world had crumbled. For the man who placed the $35,000 bet, it was more than a symbolic loss. It was financial ruin. Not only did The Undertaker's defeat shatter his confidence, but it also wiped out his life savings in one swift, crushing moment. In the high-stakes world of professional sports, athletes are expected to exhibit discipline, integrity, and a clear understanding of the rules that govern their careers. Yet, every so often, one such case is that of Ivan Toney, the talented English striker whose meteoric rise in football came crashing down when he violated one of the sport's cardinal rules: never bet on football, especially on yourself. Ivan Toney's rise to prominence was a story of resilience and determination. After spells at lower-tier clubs and a breakout season with Brentford in the Premier League, Toney established himself as one of England's most promising forwards. Known for his clinical finishing and composure under pressure, he seemed destined for greatness, with whispers of a future role in the England national team growing louder. Yet behind the scenes, Toney was making decisions that would ultimately jeopardize everything he had worked for. Over several years, he placed bets on football matches, including games he was directly involved in, an unequivocal breach of the Football Association's (FA) strict rules on gambling. Among these wagers were bets on himself to score, a move that would later be described as both brazen and incredibly foolish. The FA launched an investigation into allegations of betting violations by Toney. The findings were damning. Toney had placed 232 bets on football matches, many involving games he played in or had influence over. While there was no evidence of match fixing or deliberately altering his performance, the act of betting alone constituted a severe violation of football's code of conduct. The FA handed Tony an 8-month ban from football alongside a hefty fine. The punishment sent shockwaves through the footballing world. Here was a player at the peak of his powers, seemingly throwing it all away for the fleeting thrill of a wager. For Tony, the ban was a public humiliation. He missed the opportunity to represent his club and country, lost valuable playing time in the prime years of his career, and faced intense scrutiny from fans, pundits, and the media. While betting on oneself might seem less harmful than wagering against one's team, it still undermines the integrity of the sport. Even the perception of impropriety can damage trust between players, fans, and governing bodies. Tony's actions cast a shadow over his otherwise stellar performances, leaving fans to wonder whether his motivations were always pure. While Tony may eventually return to football, his story will serve as a permanent reminder of the heavy price of poor decisions. In a sport built on integrity and competition, even the brightest stars can fall if they fail to respect the rules that hold it all together. Well, this is not quite a sports bet, but this deserves to be in this list. Some decisions are so reckless, so absurd, that they defy comprehension. Such is the case of Aeroflot Flight 6502, an ordinary domestic flight in the Soviet Union that turned into an unimaginable tragedy because of a single senseless bet. On October 20, 1986, a pilot's ego, overconfidence, and reckless pride culminated in a devastating accident, killing 70 people and leaving the world to grapple with one of the dumbest, most catastrophic bets in history. The discussion escalated. Kluyev insisted he could land the plane blindfolded, relying solely on the instruments in zero visibility, without the assistance of autopilot or even the windows for guidance. It was a claim so audacious, so utterly absurd, that the co-pilot, whose name remains less prominent in the historical record, decided to challenge it. What began as a boast soon turned into a deadly wager. Kluyev bet he could successfully land the aircraft without looking outside, blindfolded by curtains covering the cockpit windows. The co-pilot accepted the challenge, likely believing the captain's bravado would crumble under the weight of responsibility. But he underestimated just how far Kluyev would go to prove his point. Flight 6502, a Tupolev Tu-134, was carrying 94 passengers and crew on a routine domestic route between Yekaterinburg and Grozny. As the plane approached its destination, Kluyev prepared to follow through on his reckless wager. Curtains were drawn over the cockpit windows, blocking any view of the runway or surroundings. Alarms began to sound as the plane descended. Multiple warnings blared, indicating that the landing approach was dangerously fast. Normal landing speed for the Tu-134 was approximately 240 km per hour, but Flight 6502 was descending at an alarming 280 km per hour. Despite the chaos, Kluyev pressed on, blinded by pride and determined to win his bet. As the aircraft hit the runway, disaster struck. The landing gear, unable to absorb the force of the high-speed touchdown, collapsed. The plane flipped onto its back, skidded down the runway, and erupted into flames. The resulting explosion engulfed the aircraft, and passengers and crew were thrown into chaos as the wreckage slid to a stop. The consequences of Kluyev's bet were catastrophic. Of the 94 people on board, 70 were killed in the crash, including the co-pilot who had unwittingly sealed his own fate by accepting the challenge.